Today, world leaders convene in Paris as Ukraine fights for survival. Will this summit deliver a game-changing strategy, or is the West laying the groundwork for a quiet surrender? These and more we will be detailing in today's Flash News. Good afternoon and welcome. I am Oyi Okbala. Let's begin. Today, Ukraine's allies gather in Paris a defining moment, or will it be a strategic stalemate? In a high-stakes meeting in Paris, 30 world leaders will convene on Thursday to discuss bolstering military aid to Ukraine, evaluating ceasefire negotiations, and defining Europe's potential role in a post-war settlement. Will U.S. officials absent? The summit doubled a coalition of the willing and able. This seeks to carve out a more independent European stance in the war. But as allies debate security guarantees and military deterrence, a critical question looms. Is this the moment Europe asserts its leadership, or is Ukraine being left to navigate an uncertain future alone? This summit will bring together key figures, including Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and Turkish Vice President Sivet Yilmaz. French President Emmanuel Macron has already pledged an additional 2 billion euros in military aid, while Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky anticipates further commitments from other partners. Yet, beyond immediate assistance, the discussions are expected to center on Europe's long-term security architecture, particularly regarding Ukraine's defense capabilities and the enforcement of ceasefire agreements over strategic targets such as energy infrastructure and maritime zones. A concept paper reviewed by Reuters suggests the creation of a reassurance force inside Ukraine, which is stationed away from the front lines as part of a future peace framework, potentially with U.S. backing. This force will serve to deter Russia's aggression and provide security assurance. However, European leaders remain divided on how such a deployment would work in practice, given logistical challenges and expected resistance from both Moscow and Washington. The goal is twofold: to help Ukraine sustain its defense against Russian aggression while laying the groundwork for lasting peace. This was what Macron stated. Zelensky, in turn, expressed cautious optimism as he hopes to gain clarity on which nation will stand firmly by Ukraine in the long run. But as the war drags on and European military commitments face domestic political constraints, the question is, will these security assurances translate into meaningful action, or will Ukraine once again be left vulnerable to shifting geopolitical interests? Well, while you're trying to answer that, there are so many things adding to the complexities, the tension between Kyiv and Moscow, which has escalated on Monday, with both sides accusing each other of violating a U.S.-brokered truce on energy infrastructure attacks. Meanwhile, the European Union firmly rejected Russia's preconditions for a ceasefire in the Black Sea, signaling continued deadlocks in negotiations. As the Paris summit unfolds, Ukraine finds itself at a crossroads, relying on Western assurances while confronting the stark reality that political and military support is not limitless. Can Europe and its allies forge a sustainable security framework, or is Ukraine being pushed towards an uneasy compromise dictated by global power dynamics? Well, while we're trying to answered that on the African scene, tension in South Sudan escalated on Thursday as the United States urged President Salva Kiir to release First Vice President Riek Machar from what his party claims is house arrest. The reported detention of Machar has former rival and current uneasy coalition partner come amid renewed ethnic violence and a warning from United Nations that the country is on the verge of another devastating conflict. But as Kyiv tightens its grip on power, is this about securing national stability or a South Sudan sliding back into civil war? Machar's party, the SPLM-10, alleges that government security forces stormed his residence, serving him an arrest warrant and accusing him of supporting the White Army militia, which clashed with government troops in Nasser, Upnile State, earlier this month, by the way. His wife is also reportedly under detention. South Sudan's army and government have yet to comment on the allegation, but in the capital, Juba, military presence around Machar's residence increased sharply because shootout and streets emptied, a sign of the deepening crisis. Meanwhile, under the fragile 2018 peace deal that ended the bloody 2013 to 2018 civil war, Kiir and Machar agreed to share power in a coalition government. However, the relationship has remained fraught with distrust. The U.S. Bureau of African Affairs, in a statement on X, called on Kiir to de-escalate tensions and reaffirm his commitment to peace, warning that the situation risks spiraling out of control. The United Nations, however, cited rising hate speech and ethnic violence as alarming indicators that Sudan could relapse into large-scale conflict. Political analysts suggest Kiir, 73 years old, is consolidating power ahead of future political tensions. His recent moves, including the alleged detention of Machar's allies, the invitation of Ugandan troops to secure Juba, and the appointment of businessman Benjamin Bolmel as second vice president, signals a broader strategy to sideline opponents. Bolmel, who is a controversial figure, sanctioned by the United States for alleged corruption, is rumored to be Kiir's preferred successor. If true, this will raise critical questions about the country's democratic future and the viability of the peace agreement. Still on the UN peacekeeping mission in South Sudan, has called for reinstatement, warning that renewed conflicts will not only devastate South Sudan but destabilize the broader East African region. The five-year civil war left hundreds of thousands dead and displaced millions, making the stakes of this political crisis dangerously high. Well, as reports of clashes between Kiir and Machar forces emerge near Juba, South Sudan stands at a crossroad. Will international pressure force Kiir to release Machar and uphold the fragile peace, or is the country heading towards yet another cycle of bloodshed with instability? Now let's head to South Korea. In a recent development, South Korea is grappling with its worst wildfire disaster in history, as blazes have doubled in size in just 24 hours, leaving at least 27 people dead and destroying cultural heritage sites. The fire, which began in Usan country, have consumed over 33 acres, surpassing the previous record of 24 acres from the March 20 wildfire. Acting President Han Dong-so described the situation as a national emergency, acknowledging the alarming number of casualties and rapid expansion of the fires. The government has called for urgent intervention, acknowledging the alarming number of casualties and the rapid expansion of the fires. And so the government has called for urgent intervention, deploying military assets, including aviation fuel and 120 helicopters to combat the flames spreading across the momentous regions of North Jeolgang province. The fire, fueled by strong winds and dry conditions, has moved rapidly eastwards. It reached Undaunted, a coastal country, 51 kilometers, that is 32 miles away, in just 12 hours. This unprecedented speed of spread has left many experts concerned about the increasing intensity and frequency of wildfires in South Korea. Also, the Meteorological Agency has forecast light rain in some areas. Officials warn that the precipitation levels less than 5 millimeters may not be sufficient to halt the fires. Scientists and climate experts argue that global warming is exacerbating wildfire risks. According to a report by Climate Central, rising temperatures worsened by human-induced climate change have prolonged dry season and turned South Korea's forests into highly flammable terrain, and without stronger mitigation strategies, more frequent and severe wildfires are said to be underway. The fires have destroyed centuries-old cultural sites, including Gwansa Temple in Yusung, which was originally built in 681 AD. Buddhist monk Drongwon, head of Gwansa Temple, lamented the loss, and the remains of over 1,300 years of history have been reduced to ashes. Firefighters are working tirelessly to protect UNESCO's World Heritage Sites, including the Haui Village and the Byeosan Confucian Academy in Andong. If the flames jump the stream surrounding this location, it could lead to irreversible cultural damage. As South Korea faces its largest wildfire in history, concerns are mounting over the country's wildfire preparedness. Critics argue that despite advances in firefighting technology, response measures have been reactive rather than proactive. Coming to the climax of this report, with climate change expected to worsen fire conditions globally, the question we are asking today is, should South Korea invest more in early detection system, better infrastructure and international cooperation to mitigate future disasters? Oh well, this is a worsening climate crisis that needs urgent mitigation. Until next time, this is where we will be drawing the curtains on tonight's and today's Flash News. Remember, we will be bringing you recent happenings from the home front at the top of the hour, 8 p.m. I should check that news for you. Until then, do have a pleasant day.